ve ikinci kısma başlıyoruz. Hepiniz tekrar hoş geldiniz. Ayaklarınıza sağlık. Gemalto'dan İş Geliştirme Direktörü Bay Herman Bauer bizimle birlikte olacak. Donanımsal altyapı güvenliği, şifreleme ve mobil ödemeler konusunda güvenli ödeme çözümlerini paylaşacak. Az önce sahnenin kenarında kendisiyle de konuşuyorduk. Çok da tatlı bir insan. Ladies and gentlemen, time is now up now for Mr. Herman Bauer. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here and would like to thank the organizer, first of all, for this great event and the invitation to speak here. I'm very thrilled about this huge audience, which for me is a clear testimony of the, I would say, huge interest, but also innovation leadership of the Turkish market in smart applications and card transactions. I'm from Gemalto, and people may be wondering, what is Gemalto doing here? Gemalto is competing with CardTech, but I would like to say up front, I'm coming from the company SafeNet, which has been acquired by Gemalto beginning of the year. And SafeNet was a leader in digital security and data protection solutions, more focused on the, I would say, the back-end server side, enterprise side of things. So it was a perfect complementation and fit to the original, let's say, a traditional Gemalto business, more on the client side, device side. I'm working in the so-called IDP, Identity and Data Protection Unit, which is sort of the new business unit division within Gemalto, focusing more on enterprise, back-end security and data protection solutions. My presentation is probably a bit more technology focused. It's about hardware-based infrastructure security for point-to-point encryption and mobile payments. Two very important topics, current hot topics that drive business, at least for us. And let's just move into things. I'm not going to spend much time here because I know time is tight. Let me start with a brief background on the evolution of payments, specifically card, electronic payments. I don't know if the timeline is exactly accurate in terms of the times and years, but I think it should be approximately correct. The purpose here is to really state that card payments have been fairly static until about 2005. The years before, the major innovation changer was the migration to EMV from magnetic stripe cards. But after, let's say, 2005, things really started to accelerate and almost explode. That had multiple reasons. One of them was, of course, the dramatic growth and increase in online or e-commerce, online shopping, the advent of new technologies like contactless payments, and of course, probably the biggest change, at least in the previous years, has been the impact, the dramatic impact that mobile technology is, doing to our new digital society and economy. This also meant that all of a sudden we've seen a lot new actors and entrants playing in the payment space, which beforehand was more or less reserved to the financial industry, financial sector. So we had new entrants from the handset manufacturers, from the big internet giants, from the MNOs, of course, mobile network operators, but also from payment gateways, payment service providers, but also hardware device vendors like POS or MPOS vendors. They all see a significant business potential in payments, and I would say payments is sexy again. But on the other side, it's also one of the most attractive targets for fraudsters and cyber criminals. Why? Because we're dealing with money, with electronic funds. And this is, of course, the #1 target for cyber criminals. This is, of course, coupled with a migration in crime from physical crime to more virtual and cyber crime. Let's look at some general facts and trends in payments. I'm not going to speak or present any statistics or figures here. You will find them everywhere. You just go to the internet. You will see lots of industry reports from market-leading research organizations, telling about all the future projections. I just would like to work with some pictures here. We see an overall and gradual decline in cash. This is a fact. It will remain to be seen when cash will disappear. It will be, disappearing quicker in certain countries, for example, the Nordic or Scandinavian market. The governments are thinking about abandoning and abolishing cash in the not too distant future. Other countries like Germany, my home country, also still did a recent study and found cash is still still king in payment instruments. This is, of course, coupled with, I would say, the socio-economic state and development of countries, and that varies, of course, dramatically across the world. Cards, payment cards, credit debit cards have been increasing over the last years steadily with double-digit growth rates, and this will continue to stay. But now we have the extra dynamic of mobile payments, which are further accelerating, I would say, the demise of cash, and especially now with the entry of the major mobile phone manufacturers, Apple, Samsung, Google as an OS, Android mobile operating system provider, or Microsoft as well, we will see a lot of activity in the next few years and further consolidation in that market. Industry projections say that actually mobile payments may exceed card transactions in 2020. So mobile payments also eat away at the growth rates of cards. At the same time, we see a steady and significant increase in fraud, especially card fraud. Card fraud is there. It will not go away. It is a fact. We have to deal with it. You can read every day in the media about new data breaches, and we have to accept the fact that we will be breached. So in the end, it's all about what do we do, how do we protect our valuable information once we are breached. This means really security and trust are becoming ever more important. Security and trust are the cornerstone, the foundation of our future digital economy and society. Without that, things will not work. In our company, the centerpiece of everything is security. And also now with the acquisition of SafeNet, we can offer really security and trust on all sides of things. We call it security at the edge and security at the core. And we use in all our technology primarily two technologies: encryption, cryptography, and authentication. However, that has to be done the proper way. And whenever you use encryption, it's all about protecting key material. Gemalto's standard original business is, of course, the development, provisioning, production, personalization of secure elements, of chips, secure chips. But now we have also on the back end hardware security modules and other secure cryptographic devices from SafeNet, for example. And we see these things to be complementary. An HSM is a counterpart of a secure element, a chip. It is, of course, much more powerful in terms of speed and capacity, etc. I call it sometimes a smart card on steroids. But let me come back again to the point about key protection. And I'd like to quote this, cite this quote from the Cloud Security Alliance, when some person said, well, when cryptography is involved, then the risk of is immediately transferred from the content that is being protected, encrypted, to really protecting the keys. So when we talk about cryptography, it's no longer about, do I use a really strong algorithm, because today's algorithms are so secure. Hackers will not try to break the algorithm. They will try to find a weakness in the key management. They would like to get access to the keys. So this means we need a secure, tamper-proof environment for cryptographic keys. And this is provided in either ICC, secure elements, or hardware security modules. Let's talk quickly about the first topic, PCI and point-to-point encryption. Just a quick recap. PCI security is really all about protecting account information when stored, transmitted, and processed. Account data is really primarily the PAN, cardholder name, expiry date, service code, but also secure authentication data. And three key technologies really have evolved to best address those requirements. One is network segmentation, where the card processing environment is strictly segregated through, firewall content filtering technology from the non-card processing environment, and tokenization and encryption, which are partially comparable but still different. We, as a company, heavily deal with tokenization and encryption technology, foremost point-to-point encryption. The purpose of all those technologies is really to reduce the PCI scope, primarily from the merchant environment, which is mostly at risk. What is PCI, point-to-point encryption? It's one of the more recent standards from the PCI Security Council. And it is a solution comprised of applications, processes, and secure hardware that encrypts critical sensitive data like the PAN right at the point of interaction, right at the point of entry, meaning at the terminal. This may be a stationary or mobile-connected terminal. It might be an MPOS secure card reader, to the point of the so-called secure decryption environment of the P2PE decryption provider. So we essentially create a secure zone from the point of entry to a secure endpoint, and enable this way that the merchant never sees clear information. And this means the merchant's really completely taken out of the PCI scope issue. Terminals and hardware and HSMs are mandated in point-to-point encryption. This is why it's specifically interesting for us, of course. On the back-end side, hardware security modules need to be procured and deployed that are certified to either PCI HSM compliance or FIPS 140-3. And our solutions have been used in a lot of validated P2PE solutions and services. Let's move on to NFC and mobile payments. I'm not going to present NFC. I think you're all familiar with what NFC does, but what might be interesting to just give a quick background again on the different NFC modes, because this is relevant in my eyes. There's the so-called reader-writer mode, which allows an NFC-enabled device, a mobile phone, to read information from NFC tags. Think about product information and tags in grocery stores and retailers. Then there's the so-called peer-to-peer mode, which allows two NFC devices to communicate directly with each other and exchange information, for example, to exchange contact data between each other. And the third mode that is most interesting in this context is really the so-called card emulation mode. So there's a card emulation mode in NFC, which allows the mobile device to emulate a card, a chip card. This doesn't have to be a payment card. It can be an e-passport or identity document, or access control cards. So it's not limited to payments, which I think is relevant to know. I'm not spending time much on what a SE is, but just want to point you that there are different types of secure elements. We have the UICC SIM subscriber identity module, which is the secure element, the chip inside a mobile phone, provisioned by the mobile network operators. Then we have an embedded SE, which is built in by the handset manufacturer into the device. Apple is a prime example of this. So in the new iPhone 6 and later, and the introduction of Apple Pay, Apple uses the embedded SE for storing the relevant token and security credentials. And last but not least, we have a micro SE, a micro SD form factor-based secure element. And that is, of course, interesting to particular parties that can issue, issuers that can issue those secure elements the traditional way, and after personalization can deliver them to their customers. This also meant, because of those different forms of SEs, that I would say a fight broke out between who's in control of the SEs. So the MNOs obviously prefer the SIM UICC module as the preferred SE for NFC payments and other NFC-based applications. The handset manufacturers prefer or favor the embedded secure element. And the financial industry or other service providers favor, of course, the micro SD form factor, which would allow them to pretty much continue with a standard issuing personalization process and then send the personalized SIM to the cardholder, who can then insert them into their phone in the micro SD slot. So is there potentially another way? Yes, there is, and this is called host card emulation. This is a new big hype, and the new technology that is hope to further accelerate the adoption and wide proliferation of mobile payments. It was originally developed by a company called Simply Tap, but was really received media attention by the adoption, through the adoption by Google and Android 4.4 for Google Wallet. The key difference with HCE is really that sensitive information is stored or controlled in the host CPU, in the rich mobile OS, or in the cloud, and not anymore in a secure element, or necessarily in a secure element. This means, of course, that issuers, application providers, service providers, and end users now all of a sudden get a lot more control, because those applications can be easily procured from an app store. A user can easily enroll or digitize his card in the phone. It sort of does away with the TSM, Trusted Service Manager concept that we know of in the secure element space. It's evident that HCE is less secure than a SE, secure element model. And as you can imagine, we as Gemalto certainly have a preference for the SE model for obvious reasons. That is part of our core business. But we see and observe what the market is doing, and we need to be open and react to new trends and new technologies. And that, of course, means that we have extended our products to fully support HCE in all shape and form. HSE also got the endorsement by the major card schemes, and it's also mentioned in the EMV payment tokenization specification from 2014. HCE is still in its infancy and it's evolving. It will take years until we have a clear picture. Most of today's solutions are proprietary. There's little in terms of standardization and certification processes in place, so there's really a need to further develop and standardize this environment. The main difference from a technical point of view between SE and HCE is that the NFC controller in a SE card emulation mode talks directly or interacts directly with the secure element, essentially bypassing the host CPU. So the mobile OS never gets access to this data or this data exchange. In HCE mode, the NFC controller now actually talks and communicates with the host CPU. So essentially the mobile OS, Android in this case, is now in control and now can decide what to do with that NFC information. However, what is important to understand, because people think HCE always means storage of credentials in the cloud. That is not true. With HCE, credentials can be stored anywhere. They can be stored inside the rich OS of the host mobile phone. It can be used in a trusted execution environment. It can be stored in the cloud, but it still can also be stored in the SE, in a secure element. So HCE does not preclude the use of a secure element. This is a busy slide, I know that, and I'm not going to go through this. Just mention a few highlights. The strong advantages of the SE-based approach is, of course, we are dealing with a provable, secure solution, which is EMV equivalent. It's fully standardized. Certification processes are in place. We're dealing with a well-known ecosystems. It works in offline and online mode. On the other side, the big advantages of HCE is essentially no hardware, mobile hardware requirements, apart from that it has to be NFC capable. The easy provisioning capabilities, so a customer can easily download a wallet, a payment app from an app store and can then sort of enroll his card directly. HCE wallets can also be easily migrated to a new mobile device if the old one gets broken, stolen, what have you. We have larger capacity size, memory capacity with HCE because it's now under the control of the rich mobile OS. This allows for more development of more powerful applications. There's also full support of the Android APIs behind this. And from a business model perspective, it favors an issuer-centric model, which is really ideal for service providers. HCE poses certain risks and therefore mandates certain countermeasures. As we all know, there's no perfect security. Perfect is always a combination of different things. It's people, it's processes, it's technology. But the industry has learned to know that the best security always relies on multiple layers. So with HCE, it's clear the mobile device is less secure than a mobile device with SE, the SE element. Therefore, we need to compensate this lesser security by multiple security solutions involving application security that allow or ensure that the payment application has not been compromised and that the payment credentials are properly protected. Here, code signing technology can be used, white box cryptography, obfuscation. Device security really means to ensure that the mobile device is not jailbroken, it's not running in debugger developer mode, which allows for a more open and dangerous environment. Communication security really is where, on the back ends, hardware security modules come into play. It's important that if credentials are stored in the cloud, that they're securely That means downloaded in encrypted form from the back-end token service provider to the, seems my mic is broken. That credentials are securely downloaded to the mobile payment application. One additional aspect that is noteworthy is a risk with HCE is that it's because of the easy deployment and enrollment of a digital card, a payment card, there's a huge risk that a fraudster sort of will hijack or commit some takeover fraud. He steals some, payment information from another person and is now enrolling this card with his mobile phone, so impersonating another user. And this means that with HCE we need to have better, more robust identity and verification. So the cardholder end user onboarding has to be more secure and more stringent. What else is relevant here is we need to work with various, let's say, security and cryptographic technologies and strictly separate them from other channels. So with HCE, cloud-based payments, we are working with dedicated, different key material, which are different from other channels, like the standard EMV keys. Then we also work with dynamic data. Dynamic data really means the use of single-use or limited-use keys. So these keys are limited to to be used once, and they can also be used for particular domain restrictions. And last not least, the use of tokenization. Tokenized bonds is very, very critical here. The card schemes have introduced and proposed their own cloud-based payments, HCE specifications and programs. All of them include tokenizations. The technology can be implemented directly by the issuers, can be integrated into products of payment technology vendors, or can be offered as a full-fledged service by a service provider called token service providers. The card schemes actually act as TSPs as well. What is also important to note is that the card scheme specs allow for HCE transactions on the POS, meaning NFC, proximity payments, but also in online and in-app apps. I'm coming to a closure very quickly, just a couple more slides. Payment tokenization is a very important concept and technology in our new payments world, and especially relevant for mobile payments. As we all know, a token is a low value surrogate value for a high value asset, for example, a PAN. We differentiate between different security tokens, between different tokens. There's a security token, which is sort of produced or generated actually post-authorization, for example, for card on file storage purposes. And there's a payment token, which is really generated up front, and it's replacing the PAN right from the beginning. So the token starts with, the mobile phone starts with a token and not the PAN from the beginning. Tokens can be static, dynamic, or time usage domain restricted, and the tokenization, de-tokenization processes are performed by a TSP. The slide below just shows the typical workflow. You can see the wallet, the mobile phone, sends the token and a cryptogram to the merchant and the acquirer, and the network, the card scheme, is then de-tokenizing the token, so it reverts it back to the original PAN and forwards the original PAN to the issuer for the actual financial authorization. Here's a few new technologies that are being integrated or introduced with mobile payments, account management, which is all about onboarding the user and cardholder, identifying the cardholder, and creating the digitized card. That involves a lot of cryptography, tokenization of pins, generation of mobile pins, generation of card unique keys, asymmetric keys, certificates, device provisioning or credential management. This is about really the secure remote management of the mobile payment applications and the provisioning of limited or single-use keys. Communications is also critical. It needs to be protected at the communications as well as the application layer. And transaction management is really about verifying those new cloud-based cryptograms and performing the de-tokenization. HSMs are very much used in all those processes and provide the relevant secure functionality, crypto functionality to enable those new services. I'm going to skip over these two slides and conclude just with my last slide. What you should understand, Gemalto offers a wide range of solutions and services for mobile payments. We have a dedicated business unit called MFS, and MFS provides full trust platforms and solutions for on-premise deployment or as a service, but we also offer full TSM and trusted hub services that essentially implements all the relevant technology and provides the relevant mobile deployment and management services. So these offerings are more geared and targeted towards issuers, end users, service providers. From the data protection line, where SafeNet, that SafeNet represents today, we deliver more components, technology components, such as HSMs, key management appliance, and strong authentication technologies. So in terms of our HSMs, they're all very much used in card issuance, transaction processing environments for traditional card systems, but also mobile phone systems. I have not been talking about Apple much, or I know this will be covered by other people, but you might want to know that SafeNet provides HSMs to Apple Pay directly for the secure Apple Pay ecosystem. So with that said, thank you very much for your attention, and please forgive me having overrun. Thank you.
Thank you.